Welcome to Chess with Link. Today we're talking about back rank checkmates, and we're studying 4 games where attacks on the back rank with the king stuck behind his own pieces proved crucial to the endgame. Let's begin with a game from long ago. Adams versus Repetto. Queen moves to b7 on turn 23. Black resigns here, even though white has just offered a queen. What does Repetto see? What is Adams planning? We won't know for sure since this is such an old chess game, and it did end here. But remember that if we, say, capture the queen, that takes the black queen off of b5, so she is no longer protecting e8, leading to a catastrophic back rank attack, supported by a battery in the e-file. And a checkmate just a couple of turns later. If you can draw your opponent's attention off of the pieces that they're protecting and notice that their king is trapped against the side or against the back by his own army, you've got a clean path to victory. Let's move a little bit forward in time. McInnes versus Bronstein here. And this is a beautiful example of how one can make a blunder. It's at this point here that the game actually ended. Why? With so many pieces on the board, why would white resign? You heard me right. White just moved, and then white ends up resigning the game. Can you see what's wrong with it? Pause the video. Stare at it for a bit. How much power is in the A file or the E file? There are many ways that checkmate could occur here, but a lot of them boil down to pulling the rook or the queen off of the back rank and delivering an inescapable checkmate. Even if the queen hadn't been pulled off of the D file, if she was still there, we would just capture her and still have checkmate. So how are we going to defend against this? What moves can we find that those higher level players did not? There is a situation here in Gilgoric versus Fischer. In this beautiful moment, Bobby Fischer is about to get a chain of attacks that will absolutely put him in the lead for this game. Do you see a way that Fischer, playing as black, can get 2 forks in a row, leading to checkmate? Let's think about which pieces are involved in this situation. Notice how if we had a piece on A1, our opponent would be forced to leave the rook on D1, or to move the rook down from F2, or the queen down from B4. because the king is trapped behind his own pawns. How can we get a piece to a1 and perhaps lure the rook off of d1? Do we even need to lure the rook off of d1 if we can get a chain of 2 forks? If you said knight to d3, you're thinking like Bobby Fischer. Well done. You're threatening the f2 rook, you're threatening the b4 queen, and when the queen is saved, the rook is captured, creating yet another fork between the king and the d1 rook. Now, we do lose our knight. We don't actually get to take the d1 rook. But what does that enable? The king has more pieces that he's stuck beneath now. And in the actual game, Fischer took this as an opportunity to clean a path to have 2 pieces threatening a1. So now the d1 rook and the f2 queen are pretty well stuck. It's worth mentioning here that at multiple points along the path between this board position at move 31 of Gligoric versus Fischer, here at move 31, there were opportunities where Gligoric could have survived. Fischer is definitively in the lead, but modern engine analysis does show several paths at which Gligoric could have made critical sacrifices and survived. See if you can find that. Maybe post about it down below. Tell us what move number and what different path you would take compared to what you see happening in the next 4 or 5 moves of this game when you check out the study. And let's go here to one last game. Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley So. And once again, we have an example of white making a blunder and losing the game. In fact, one of the 2 moves you see on the screen, either queen to c5 or rook to b3, is the correct move. And the other is the move that Magnus Carlsen made. That's right. He's going to blunder one of his pieces and then resign. But neither of these squares is threatened, so which move is the error? The stronger move is to move rook to b3, giving you a triple battery once that knight is gone, and virtually guaranteeing that if we can either push through that knight, which remember is not currently defended, or capture that knight and push our pawn, which is currently not super great because we would possibly lose our rook or get into a trade war, but we don't have to worry about that if our rook is in the C file. But that's not what Magnus Carlsen did. What he actually did is queen captures, which feels right at first. But we now know that it was a disaster. So here's the challenge I have for you. From this position, load it up in an engine, click that little continue playing button at the bottom right if you happen to pull this up in a study, and try to find a way to either survive from where Magnus made his crucial blunder, or win as black from where Magnus made his crucial blunder. Alternatively, take it back a step, bring the rook over to c3, and see what you can do to win as white. Folks, one of the most important things to remember when we're playing chess is that deep knowledge of gaming history and how the various patterns on the chessboard link together, that kind of deep connective thought that the chess masters perform on a regular basis, in many ways, that requires us to keep in mind very basic things. Give your king an escape. Build up multiple attackers on the same square. Draw your opponent out of their defensive position. Take a little time this week and practice getting your rooks all the way through to endgame, and then using them to deliver a back rank checkmate. And make sure as you're playing that you give your king that escape route, that you keep some pieces guarding the back rank until you have that escape route, and that you maybe make sure that your queens and bishops are being used to guard your rooks and knights, and the other way around. Have a great week, folks. Can't wait to see your thoughts on how you defend your pieces or press your attack more effectively than these masters of chess did. And please take a moment to give this a like and a share if you found it useful. Take care.